let's start with acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, who are the traditional owners of the land in which this podcast is being filmed. I would like to pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging. A big welcome to the Hope Podcast. Hope. I hope you guys enjoy this little journey that I'm starting and settle in. With anything. Hello. Hi. Hello. Hi. Hello, guys. Hi and welcome. Welcome to my podcast. I have decided to make a podcast. It's something that I've thought about for the longest time. If you'll just bear with me for 2 seconds, I'm just getting myself really nice and cozy, which I guess is kind of related. But anyway, please hold for one moment. Oh, excellent. Okay, I've got my little checklist. I've got all the things. My hot water bottle, because it's freezing. It's actually a really nice day outside. Okay, we're back. We are back. I don't really want to even look. Maybe I want to look outside. I think that is actually a bit nicer. What was I doing? I was saying hello and welcome to the podcast. So I have decided to make this because it's something that I think is really important for me in the place in my life where I'm at in terms of connecting with more people. And I feel like I'm finally in this place in my life where I feel like I have it in me to share. And I'm someone who deeply values conversation. So in my personal life and in my relationships, I'm someone who is a very, very obviously active listener, but also someone who, when I spend time with my friends, my loved ones, I will always walk away from conversations and think about it. And I always have moments with my friends or my loved ones where I'm like, oh, I wish I could share that with people, or I wish this conversation could continue in another way. And of course I do that. We all kind of do that naturally in some ways. But I think creating a podcast is a really powerful way to really connect more like-minded people and spark more of the conversations that I want to be having in my day-to-day. And yeah, I feel like it'll attract. I'm someone who's very, very spiritual, and I feel like it's going to attract the right people who think similarly to me, or yeah, I think it's plainly and simply, plainly and simply, I think it's going to be a really, really, really good thing. So a bit about me and my story. I was born in Joburg in Secunda, South Africa, which if you know where that is, good job. If you don't, I would not be surprised. It's a small little town. My dad used to work at somewhere called Sasol, which is like a refinery, and me and my sister grew up from the ages of 1 till 7. It's the first time. Oh, no, I'm lying. First time I moved, I was 4 to New Zealand. And yeah, then we stayed for a year and then we moved back and went to Durban, I think. Basically, part of my story is I've grown up moving a lot. And I think it's shaped me to become the person that I am now as I'm entering into my more adult years. And something I kind of want to say on this, especially on this first episode, is the place and the intention behind this podcast. I recently had a conversation with one of my friends. We were having a FaceTime in my room, and then basically these two friends have known me. Now my accent's flipped because I was talking about SA. But anyway, they've known me since I was 10 years old, and they are people who have what I love about friendships like that, and I hold them so, so dearly, is the fact that they've been able to see me evolve into different versions of myself, from being a preteen to now having experienced love for the first time, or moving away from home, or uni, or sometimes not making the best decisions. And always, despite it all, we've always been there for each other, which is something I know that is rare, and I'm so blessed to have that, and grateful. I'm honestly really, really grateful for it. We were having this conversation that was very silly, and talking about a whole bunch of things, talking about boys, talking about so many things that I won't even. At one point, we were talking literally about if your pet died and they were the last thing, and you were on a desert island and you had to survive, would you? This is so morbid. This is so morbid to be putting on the first episode. But would you eat your pet, basically? And I was like, absolutely not. That's not happening. I am not eating Leo. If you know my dog, my family's dog, that is not happening. And we were just giggling, laughing about that. Anyway, that is a whole other thing. But we were talking at one point. We went from being in my room to going outside to then going to my other friend's room, and we started talking about values. And I think it started from my friend saying she was watching a Netflix show about matchmaking or something, and it got her thinking about values. And then we were just asking each other what our values were. So right now in 2024, on the 28th of April, it's a Sunday, I'm 23 years old. I think my top 5 values are, number 1, community. I think community is really, really important to me. It's something, having grown up and moved quite a bit in my youth and in my younger years, I never specifically had community in the sense of it being a home. I never grew up in the same home from birth to adult, and then left, which I know is the case for a lot of people. And as a result of that, it means that I've always searched for community, not in a home, but in people, in music, in church, in acting, in the arts, in creating. I have so many different hubs and circles of community that are really, really important to me in order to feel happy and feel content and feel loved as well. So that's my number 1. Number 2 is sensitivity, is a huge, huge thing for me. As you can see, I am, if you're watching this on video, I am someone who really values comfort now as a 23-year-old, which I think if you said that, if I heard, I'm imagining if I was a 60-year-old listening to this, hearing this 23-year-old just be like, oh my gosh, they just want to be comfortable, and it's 23. These are your hustle years. What are you doing? Why are you valuing comfort so much? Anyway, I'm someone who values comfort because I am so highly sensitive, and that's something that I've learnt, particularly through drama school and through my last years of schooling, really. And honestly, as I've started to navigate my career as an actor, I am someone whose nervous system, it's a trait that I get from my mum. She's also someone who is highly empathetic, and how quickly I can get overstimulated. This is a deeper conversation that I could probably have conversations about each of these things, being community, sensitivity, and the others. But yeah, it's something that I really, really value, because I think it's something that when you have it, you're very conscious of people who have it as well and people who don't. So I tend to, obviously knowing that you can't control, it's something I was born with. It's not necessarily something you can control in others, but it's something that I search for and I look in terms of, sometimes it's really easy for me to feel defeated by the world, and despite being optimistic at most times about the world and looking at the world through love and light, I am someone who, obviously, when I see a lot of harm and pain and suffering, that really, really affects me, and I can't fathom how it doesn't affect other people and make other people just as angry. So yeah, that's something that I've learned, and it's a value that I really, really, really appreciate within myself. It's really is a strength. I also really value my family big time. And if you had asked me this, if a little 18-year-old me had made a podcast, and I can guarantee you my values, one of them at that point probably wouldn't be family. But at this stage in my life, getting to see my family overcome and fight and break so many generational things that had been built up within my family structure. And that's something I can, again, talk about in another podcast. But the love that I have for my family, in what they've sacrificed for me and my sister, for the life that I'm able to have, that she's able to have, is something I deeply, deeply value. And it makes me look for it. Like I find myself looking for, I'm someone who's grown up with two parents who are very, very deeply in love, which I think is quite rare. And when I say deeply in love, I mean they are affectionate all the time. They are constantly holding each other, dancing with each other, kissing each other on the cheek, holding hands in the car, like that level of love that I don't think is a given for a lot of relationships. And my parents had me and my sister when they were quite young. And obviously no relationship is perfect. But I have grown up with that level of love and knowing that that exists. This is actually part of the conversation we were having 2 nights ago with my friends as well. I've realized most of my friends also have that, that their parents are still together. Some of them aren't, but some of them are. And how grateful, again, that I feel that we're able to know that that kind of love exists. And I think when you don't grow up with that, how damaging and how painful it is to be walking around in the world and be completely unaware that that kind of love exists, because it's not what your experience was growing up. And we all know how much foundationally your upbringing really, really affects you, especially from the ages of 0 to 5. So I think that's why I guess family is really important to me and why I'm so grateful for it. The next one I think I said was respect, but I also think, now that I'm thinking about it right now, respect is something that I've always had ingrained in me, to be like a good girl, or to be do the right thing, and it was kind of more this linear or black and white way of thinking. As I've gotten older, I've realized that life is a lot more complicated than that. And the possibility of someone having the intention to do the right thing can be there, but sometimes it's not as tangible as an exact result of like, this is what that looks like. The biggest lesson for that for me was heartbreak and going through that chapter and experiencing what that was like. And yeah, I've just really realized that there's lots of layers to things, and multiple things can be true at once, which is really, when you take a second to think about it, I'm someone who does spend a lot of time reflecting. But when you spend a lot of time doing that, of course, that makes sense that multiple things can be true. But I don't know if there's a lot of people who are walking around in their day-to-day and doing that. And then finally, the last one I think I said was trust. Because for me, I think it's really important to feel safe with the people I'm around in order to be my most authentic self. I think when we're living in survival response, or when we're living in a state of being that's not true to who we are, that is a result of not feeling safe enough. And of course, it depends on your circumstances and whether that's even possible to be in a situation where you can feel that way. But I think for me, creating this podcast, I want it to feel that way for every single person listening. And I don't want to isolate anyone. I think I have really, really surrounded myself with very different types of people. I've got people who are spiritual and prayer warriors who are really, really strong in their faiths. And that particularly being in my family and how much that's gone into me. I've got people who are really, really intellectually smart and think of the world and dissect the world in really, really interesting ways. And I'm just in awe of how they're able to read like classics and do things like that, or people who are really artistic and able to view the world with so much color, so many notes, so many layers, so much tone shift, music, vibrations. I've got people in my life who are able to really, really see the world in so many different ways. And I think that's why I want to create this podcast, is because I want it to be a place that it's truly something that everyone can listen to, if it's something that you feel connected to. And yeah, I think that's kind of where I want to start it for now. I will also just say, clocking where I'm at in this moment in my life right now as a 23-year-old, I've moved interstate in August of last year. I'm starting to experience my first shift into Nam weather. It's starting to get cooler here, and I am starting to really look after my health. And when I say my health, I don't only mean my physical health, but also my mental health. And I'm someone who is quite resilient, but one of the things that I really, really struggled with for a few years, kind of want to blame COVID for this, but also it's being young and being silly. I grappled with a addiction that I was really, really trying to get rid of for the longest time, and now I can proudly say that I've conquered it. It's something that used to leave me feeling a lot of guilt and a lot of shame about. And maybe I'll talk about it when I'm feeling less vulnerable. But it's something that I conquered recently, and as a result of that, it was a stimulant, and I've now decided to stop drinking caffeine as well, which has really, really shifted my ability to be present. And I think I forgot for the longest time and had this heavy fog kind of feeling around me. But by releasing those two things, I really feel a lot more intuitively, is that a word? Intrinsically, intuitively within myself, which is really great. And I haven't felt this way in the longest time. The last time I remember feeling like this was probably my childhood. In terms of now getting to feel the world with all the depths of color that it really, really is, and not running away from it. And within that means that I went to the GP recently, And I am finally starting the process of something that maybe I'll share. I won't share it right now, but yeah, finally starting a journey that I feel steady and like I've taken enough time to make a decision about, which I'm really, really grateful for. I want this podcast to have many, many guests on it. All of my friends, of course, are welcome. I want it to be a place to connect people and share other artists, whether it's musicians, actors, content creators, models. I think it's something that I can really pour more into and connect other people with, which I'm really excited to do because that's, again, what I value most is connecting people. And yeah, I think for now, on this Sunday afternoon that I'm creating this, I'm probably going to leave it there. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I think I'll probably upload these most likely on Sundays or record them on Sundays because they are my reset day. And it's the time that I take to really clock back in and out, but reset basically. Yeah, maybe we leave it there. I also am really keen to get more comfortable with this sort of format. Obviously, I'm figuring it out with you guys. I have a lot of respect for vocal and for voice over artists. I recently did a job for a podcast and a book that's coming out soon, and saying all of these words and speaking into a microphone, being in that studio, I was just like, oh, this is so much fun, one, but also holy, like, how do people do this for a living? And I think I'm also in that place in my life where I really want to keep upskilling and keep experimenting with new things. I'm no longer held by like fear or shame or guilt of what are people going to say? What are people like being scared of failure, basically. I think I've come to realize how short life is and how much, I really want to keep living in this place of being grateful for the opportunities that are really starting to come my way and for, the chance to get to share and connect with more people. I've clearly tried to end this multiple times, guys. I'm really sorry. So I'm just going to say goodbye now. But thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope you're having